Okay, we're trying this again. The Unplugged Alpha, episode 187, Psychology of Familiarity and Desire, is the topic of this show. I had an issue with the streaming software. It was cutting off my head and went vertical, so I fixed it. Such is life with these streaming platforms. I guess they get abused a lot by the younger generation because they need a vertical platform for their cell phone use to run around in the streets and interview people and stuff. But here we are. Okay. Couple quick announcements before we get started. There will be a Q&A session during this during this podcast, I should say. We'll get to that in maybe about 40, 45 minutes or so, just as soon as I get through these three idiots. These are straight out of the book, The Top Shelf Man. If you haven't got it, you can find the link for that after the recording. I got to put it below afterwards, or you can, if you're live and new to the channel, you can just search for my name, Richard Cooper, on Amazon. You'll see a couple of best-selling books there. The most recent one's The Top Shelf Man. And that's really a book about how to get the most out of life as a guy. And a large component of the book and the content that's in the book deals with managing long-term relationships so that you're getting what you want out of it, and that it lasts in a way that it works for you and her at the same time, if I can put it that way. Good. I'm getting positive feedback in the chat. I'm glad the orientation is correct. So in my first book, I talked about genuine burning desire. Okay. I'm not going to go over that in detail. It's already been covered. I know a lot of you guys have already gone through it. But GBD, it's an acronym. Genuine burning desire is what you want if you're going to deal with a chick over the long term. It's ideal. It's just better. She'll be more likely to be useful in your life. She'll be more likely to be in your frame, a compliment. She'll be more respectful. For those guys out there that are looking to form a family and have children, far better choice for that type of stuff. It really does make a big difference when you choose women that have already chosen you. Okay. Now, these three idiots are the killers of long-term relationships and desire. I've talked to a lot of guys over the years, obviously, and one of the things that comes up often is that you get some kind of grievance or a complaint. And I'm just going to read some of this straight out of the book. Again, you know, I don't use the copy over there on the shelf. I use my manuscript copy that I use for editing. So I've got some handwritten notes on here and it works a little bit better. But guys almost always have some kind of soundbite around the line of they give more over time and they get less in return. And that's par for the course. That's the experience that most men have in a long-term relationship. They give and they give and they give, and they figure if they give more and they keep giving more, then at some point she might return to what they had from the get-go out of the gate. And that never really happens. It's very, 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 very rare that men and women have a very good experience over the long term in a long-term relationship, whether it's an LTR, cohabitating, non-cohabitating, marriage, whatever it is you want to call it. It's very rare that they both have a very, very good experience. In fact, I'll go back to the original study that I put in my first book, The Unplugged Alpha, from Aaron and Civito, where they were studying people after about 8.5 years in a long-term relationship, and less than 13% expressed being in love, less than 3% expressed being in a state of obsession or bliss, which is kind of what most people sign up for. Like when they go out and they're like, I want to find a wife or a husband, the notion they have in their head is it'll be blissful. It'll be amazing. We'll have a lovely life and a family together and blah, blah, blah sort of thing. And that's usually what most people sign up for when they're looking for anything long-term. Again, it doesn't have to be marriage. Could be a relationship, could be girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it happens to be, but it tends to sort of fizzle out over time. And I've identified these three idiots that men can manage, and I talk about it in this chapter in the book, which will help you get more of what you want out of the long-term relationship. I'll say this, if you haven't got it, it's on Amazon, get it. The reviews are averaging 4.9, 5 stars. People are loving it. It's, in my opinion, far better than the first book. So if you love the first book, which was a bestseller, I know the sequels usually don't do as well, but it's, in my opinion, a better piece. And the feedback that I'm seeing so far on it is very strong. So go ahead and grab yourself a copy from Amazon. You can just look up my name or look up Top Shelf Man, which is the book title. I'm going to draw your attention to the ticker below before I get into the stuff in the book, because I've added the green flag chapter from the Top Shelf Man to my email list. So if you're already on my email list, you'll get the email. Don't worry about it. You don't have to do anything. If you're newer to the channel and you're not, go to entrepreneursandcars.com/red-flags. You can opt in, and then you can download the 21 red flags from my first book for free. And you can also download the 16 green flags from my volume 2, the follow-up, the sequel, also for free. These are the positive traits that you look for. People said, Rich, I get it. I got the negative traits. What do I do? How do I look for better? What are the signs? That was the point of that chapter. So I wanted to give you some, some positive or some useful stuff that you can sort of lean into and what to look for. Okay. Anyway, so back to this chapter about the 3 idiots. So why did this come up? I started to and it's just a coincidence. I'm like, the familiarity is a real problem. Being in close proximity is a real problem. And then you've got the issue of the exclusivity. And it's like, now we got 3 idiots. So it kind of worked out well. Proximity, familiarity, and exclusivity. And this is what we're talking about in today's show. And what I'll do is I'll grab the call-in link for you guys to use for kind of halfway through the show. I'm just going to pin it in the top of the live chat on YouTube and ask IQ, because this won't take me ages to get through. I'll pin it there and stick that at the top. Also, let me draw your attention to the top, this way or this way, the top left of your screen. There's a QR code for the School of Unplugging. I'll talk a little bit about that before we go to the call-in segment. Give you guys a little bit of insight and a peek under the hood what's going on, because that's been doing really well the last month. I've made some pretty dramatic changes in that area. Some of you guys are probably watching that are already in there, so you know what I'm talking about. But that's going to focus on the 7 spokes. I'll get into that in a bit. So let's just take it kind of like from the top of this chapter here, right? Because the notion of these idiots is going to be it's going to be kind of annoying to some people, if I'm being honest. It's going to piss some people off. But, I've always said that the truth will set you free after it pisses you off and you let it. And that's just a reality of, a lot of things that we talk about here. So proximity, very simply, is being in close proximity to someone. That is not a good thing for long-term desire for either one of you, for anything, for that matter. If I'm in close proximity to a car that I really like, that I just got, and I drive it all the time, and I'm going on rallies like, 247, 52 weeks of the year, I'm going to get bored of it. I'm just going to get tired of looking at it. Probably going to find things about it that just don't appeal to me. I'm going to look at other cars when I'm on the highway, other exotics when I go to Cars and Coffees, and I'm going to be like, oh, that's kind of interesting, because you just don't want things that you already have and that you're in close proximity to, if that makes sense. I've always asked guys that I've come across that have great long-term relationships. They claim they've been married for 20 or 30 years. I remember I was in a, business forum for several years, and one of the guys, I think he was married for like 26 years at the time. And he sat down at the table and we do updates. We meet with this crew and we collab, once a month. It's usually, about a 3 to 4 hour meeting, but there's usually about a 10-minute update session for everybody. And he said something along the lines in his personal updates within his family. He goes, I just had the best sex of my entire life. And we all kind of looked at each other like, with your wife or with somebody else, right? Because it's kind of like the common reaction to a statement like that. He, of course, clarified it was with my wife. But I remember having a conversation with this guy many, many years later, because he'd still been married to his wife and they've been very happy. And they, they had that sparkle in both their eyes, for one another. And I said to him, I go, so what do you think the secret was? Right. And he goes, I traveled a lot. He had this toy business. Most of the crap that he got came from China. So he was traveling half the month in Asia, in trade shows in Europe, all over the world. Basically selling, these new toys to retail distributors and online shops and all that kind of stuff. And the wife kind of like stayed home and raised the kids, and, she managed the fort. So there was a resignation to the blue jobs and the green job, stuff that I've talked about many times before. He would go out and get the bacon and bring it home, and she would cook it up, right? So that worked out really, really well for them. And there was some distance between them, right? There was not consistent proximity. You get up in the morning, she's right there. You come home from work, she's right there. You sit down on the couch to watch a show, she's right there. You have dinner every day, she's right there, right? When that proximity creates some distance, now things become interesting, right? Now you kind of like want what you're not around. I remember when I was in England in my early 20s, I had my motorcycle back over here still in Canada. I was 22 or 3 at the time. And I decided that I was going to come back. And I just thought nonstop about riding my motorcycle. It wasn't the greatest motorcycle. Okay. It was a nice sport bike. It was like a sport touring bike. I'm going to date myself. Some of you guys might know what this is. It was a Suzuki Katana 600, black with a little, zigzag, sort of down the side. And air and oil cooled, didn't have a ton of power, but it was, fast enough. And it, gave you the excitement sort of thing. And I just pined to get back to ride my bike because I wasn't around it. Get back, ride the bike for a few months, you get bored of it, you upgrade to the next bike. You see what I'm saying here, right? You're around somebody or something too much. Proximity to said thing will bore you. I guarantee there's people that live on a beautiful Greek island somewhere, in the Mediterranean, and in the summertime, something bothers them about it. Something, because they're in close proximity to it all the time. Could be the tourist, could be a certain something, a neighbor, I don't know. But I can guarantee you, it doesn't matter how awesome something looks. The more time you're around it, the more likely you are to become disinterested in that person, place, or thing. It's human nature. What do you want me to tell you? I don't make the rules. I just look at them and I point to the facts. And if you guys want to disagree with me, that's great. Come on in and let's have a conversation when it comes to the Q&A segment. Okay, so we talked about my buddy. Absence does in fact make the heart grow fonder. You've all heard that statement before, right? Nothing new. We talked about blue jobs, pink jobs. So here's another point that I made in the book that is worth mentioning here that I want to expand on a little bit. When you actually think about it, and I spend a lot of time thinking about shit like this, like the stuff that keeps me up at night is not this kind of stuff. I sometimes think about the pyramids of fucking Giza and stuff like that. But I'm very interested in ancient history and the evolution of humankind, if we can put it that way. And I think it was natural for human beings in sexual relationships throughout the 2.6 million years that we've lived as nomadic hunter-gatherers. Okay, that's a long time. 2.6 million years is not a short period of time. We spent the vast majority of our time living like that. And what do nomadic hunter-gatherers do? Well, they're nomadic. So they go out and hunting, and they go out and gather, and they move around a lot. That's what nomadic people do. They don't stay in one spot. They don't build a city and stay in one spot. They're like, all right, let's pick up and go that way. And they just kind of head that way. And the guys will go out and they'll hunt, and the women will kind of stay around the village and look after the kids and, gather around there and look after things. But proximity wasn't consistent for 2.6 million years. That's the point that I'm making. There was distance. They needed to go out and get food. They needed to go and wage war on a next village or something like that, pillage, plunder, whatever it happened to be throughout history. But we didn't sit side by side day in, day out like we do today. Okay. The point being is that for some perspective, we moved away from the lifestyle of the 2.6 million years of hunting gathering about 10,000 years ago. That's when agriculture sort of came into play. And somebody somewhere cooked up the idea of, well, instead of being nomadic and going out and hunting and gathering, let's just plow the fields and plant some shit over here and domesticate some animals and breed them, and we'll have meat and, produce and vegetables and shit right here. We don't have to go anywhere. So we set down roots. And that's only happened for 10,000 years. Think about it. 2.6 million years, we're running around a lot, distance from one another. 10,000 years, we're sitting around. It's only lately in the last, several decades, we're constantly sitting around your significant other a lot. Oh, let's watch a Netflix series. Let's go out and have dinner with the blubbity blah. We got a birthday party, a family event, the do da 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 da. It's like, you have all this shit that you're always doing together, and being in close proximity, I believe, takes us away from the origin of our species that's hardwired into our DNA, which was the nomadic hunter gatherers, right? You're not going to be around side by side watching Netflix for 2.6 million years. You're going to be out fucking around with mastodons and saber-tooth tigers and waging war on your neighboring villages. Totally different thing that we've been created to be and do. And we're trying to take that out of us, even though it's in our DNA, and say, sit still and be beside this person for the rest of your life. How's that working out? It's just not, because the divorce rate's 50%, because most people aren't in love that even stay together. They kind of hate each other, for the most part. So proximity is a problem. Like I said, you're not going to like some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about here today, but I'm just going to talk about the facts. So let's get on with it. All right. So one of the things that you see a lot of today is that people are really, really quick to move in together. Let's get as close as we can and move in together and be on each other's feet all the time. And they justify reasons. I've often said people will complicate their life and then justify why they do it. Let's move in together. That's the complicated life. And then they'll justify why with, we'll save on rent. We don't have to pay as much in utilities. We can split all the bills and the food and consolidate and travel less to one another's house. So, complicate life. Let's move in together. Justify why, because of all these reasons. That's what humans do, right? Anyway, some of that comes from each other, from social pressures, from societal conditioning, any number of places and things. I'm starting to lose my voice. Give me a second here. But it is not ideal, and it's clearly not working. Now, one of the more modern responses I've seen to this is the notion of together but apart, right? Like being together but living apart. And you're starting to see more and more people talk about this, especially after they've been married before and they've probably got kids or something like that, or maybe they're well into their 30s or 40s plus sort of thing, and they've come to realize that they like their space, right? The guys like to kind of be maybe a little bit like a slob. They leave their fucking stuff on the floor, and we don't want to hear about pick up your clothes. And the women, they want to put 17 throw pillows on the bed and arrange them nicely and decorate the walls with their stuff, and they've got their spaces, right? So this is one of the interesting responses to this dilemma today that I think older people are starting to figure out is, you can love a chick, or woman can love a man, sort of thing, and not live together. As foreign or as surprising as that seems to be for a lot of people, it can work a lot better, right? Like I said earlier, the reason why my buddy's marriage lasted for so long is because he wasn't even home half the month. He was out traveling so much, right? Now, some people really struggle with this because women say they want stuff. This is going to make me happy, so do it. Stop doing this, it'll make me happy, so stop doing it. And I think men in general will abide by this quite a lot because they love the woman and they want to please her, right? This is what men are like built to do, it seems, right? Now, the point that I'm going to make here is that if she's in your frame 100% and she's genuinely attracted to you and truly sees you as her hypergamous best option, she will more likely than not agree to whatever boundaries you set. It's not for her to determine the conditions of the relationship. This is where guys go wrong. They'll just, whatever you want, babe. What do you want to eat? Whatever you want, babe. Right? Where do you want to travel to? Wherever you want to go on vacation. I don't care. Right? And it's like you leave all of the frame part of the relationship in her court. And women hate that shit. They don't want to make those decisions. They want to be told, put on that black sexy dress and we're going to this sushi place at fucking 7:00 that you love. Right? That's all they want to think about, is just looking pretty, put on the outfit that you like, and then you take her out and, show her a good evening, sort of thing. So if she's genuinely into you and you set the tone and the frame of things, she will follow. If she's not, she's going to challenge you and give you a hard time. And the guy that's on the top shelf or in close proximity to the top shelf shouldn't put up with that crap because he should have optionality, right? You're going to give me a hard time. You're going to be a pain in my neck. You're going to chirp me about nonsense. The door's over there. It's unlocked. It'll be locked if you try to come back in, right? So together but apart. That's one of the prescriptions that I tend to give for this. You're going to have to find some way to put distance between that which you love, which is counterintuitive because people are like, that which I love, I want to be around all the time. It's what all the Disney stories told us, all the movies you watch growing up. That which I love, I want to be around it all the time. We should be side by side, joined at the hip. You know, they cooked up this idea, joined at the hip. Really? Doesn't work out for people very well, does it? Because we've been trying that shit for a while now. I don't know how long, you know, marriage has been around. There's a book I talked about a while ago called Marriage: A History. And Stephanie Coontz is the author. It's a good book. It's worth checking out if you guys haven't checked it out. But, you know, she basically goes through diaries and court records and anything that she can find throughout history. And it goes back a few hundred years. So the notion of marriage has been around for a while, but it was never about like love. It was never about like being together or any of those things. It was about the acquisition of in-laws. It was about like, you know, this family of 5, 6, or 7 children or whatever. And there's another family over here that has their kids and they have a certain set of skills and you'd have a certain set of skills. And you'd be like, well, if we blend those families, then we can, you know, we can acquire the skills by the blending of the families and the procreation of children. It wasn't about love or having children. I mean, the children were put to work mostly. They weren't sitting around looking at screens like they are today or playing with dolls or race cars or anything like that. They were put to work. They were labor, run the farm, milk the fucking cows, right? All that stuff. So you get the point that I'm making, right? Boring. So we talked about that. So let's talk about boring a woman. You know, you can do anything to a woman except bore her. And if you're in close proximity, you will eventually bore her. Which brings me to familiarity. So the first idea, again, it's proximity. And that's distance. The closer you are, you know, the more likely it is that you're going to become annoyed, frustrated, bored of the other person. And I've said this before, you know, you can do anything to a woman except bore her. Can't bore a woman. Just can't. She hates it. So let's talk about familiarity, the next idea here. Excuse me. I am losing my voice, so I'm going to try to do this show as best as I can with this voice that I got. So familiarity is something that occurs with constant exposure. You get to see how things work. Proximity is being close to something. Familiarity is understanding how it works, sort of thing. Like, you know, I'll go back to cars. You go out and get the new Turbo S, the 911, it rips, it's got great grip, lots of power, it accelerates like a bat out of hell. And then you start to realize, you know what? I'm starting to get really familiar with this car. And then you start to notice the little niggles. The gloss black finish looks like shit. The sun reflects off on it and it's blinding me in certain angles, right? It's got 5 dials, but the 2 dials are covered by the steering wheel on the outskirts. What a stupid design, right? So as you get more familiar with something or a woman or a man, I know men and women watch the show. I'm trying to make the point clear. But as you become more familiar with something, the more that you're around it in close proximity, the more annoyed you'll become with it, right? When you don't live together, then you're not going to see all of her little, you know, idiosyncrasies. She's not going to see yours. There's got to be space. There's got to be distance. There's got to be some mystery, right? That's what familiarity steals from it, right? And that's why they say familiarity breeds contempt. It's a saying as old as time, and there's a reason why it exists. It breeds contempt. Familiarity breeds contempt. You'll start to notice flaws, imperfections, negative qualities. So like this is when your limerence for her starts to wane, right? Over time, acute awareness of these flaws will erode the admiration or affection you both feel or had felt, potentially replacing it with much more negative feelings of dislike or disrespect, right? It just happens. You're not going to like the way somebody blows their nose. It's like things like the familiarity of being around them is just going to annoy you. And that's just how it is. I don't make the rules. I just point to the facts. I just watch the world work and I make observations and I write books about shit like this. And I try to communicate it as clearly as I can to you guys so that you understand it. But read the book. Honestly, guys, the book's very well put together. I'm going to read some of this here because I've got some highlights that I wanted to make sure I didn't miss. Okay, so the issue with the familiarity is there's a loss of mystery when she becomes too familiar with you. It's common for women to see your confidence and competence early on, but as she spends more and more time around you, your insecurities will often reveal themselves. And regardless of how competent you are as a man, as familiarity grows, she'll discover things that you are either incompetent at, or she'll see a side of you that she may not like as much. Familiarity reveals emotional shortcomings, annoying habits, and differences in lifestyle that didn't matter before you started spending so much time around each other. Can't stress it enough. You got to maintain the mystery. Don't become too predictable or too available, right? Now, women are going to push for familiarity. They're going to push for exclusivity. A lot of women have an anxious attachment style. A severe one in some cases, and sometimes it's just light or marginal. But a lot of women have anxiety around the guy that they're pining for, the guy that they love. Okay. She's chosen you, and it's like she just wants to know that you're around. She wants to know what you're up to. She wants to know how your day went and what you did and who you're hung out. And then she starts getting into, well, what's he doing? Who's he with? Wait, I looked at his social media. Who's that girl that liked that social media post of him? Let me click through and go down a rabbit hole of exploring all those things. And it's like, now we're getting into some competition anxiety. Now we're getting into some actually good things that return to genuine burning desire, not having too much familiarity. Like I said, you got to be somewhat of a mystery. And she tries to placate, a lot of those anxieties. I'll just read what I wrote here in the book. Women will push for more of your time to placate their own needs or anxieties. But again, just because she wants something doesn't mean that you should give it to her. Sometimes the very things that she doesn't like are actually good for the relationship and keeping the attraction strong for you. And it is what it is, right? Just because she says, I have a good idea, let's live together, let's get a place and move in together, sort of thing. Just because she says something doesn't mean you got to do it. It's true. You're the guy. Lead the relationship. Tell her how it is. And if she's got like severe anxiety or she's got she's got one of these like attachment styles where she has like severe anxiety around not being around you enough, has breakdowns, cries and stuff like that, you might want to reconsider anything long-term with a situation like that, because that's going to become pretty exhausting pretty quickly. We've all been there at some point, especially if you've been alive for a few years, right? I'm going to skip over giving her what she needs because we kind of dealt with that briefly. I'm trying to preserve some voice so I can do some call-ins for you guys. So the call-in link, it's pinned at the top of YouTube. I'm going to put it in all chat now just so it's everywhere, because I'm just going to do the exclusivity part. So if you click that, then you can queue up and you can ask me any question. So exclusivity. Again, we got proximity, we got familiarity, and we got exclusivity. Recap. Proximity is being close to something. Familiarity is becoming known and familiar with its intricacies. You pop the hood and you know exactly how it works. Exclusivity is giving her exclusivity. We'll get into that. Now, this one's going to be tough for a lot of guys to understand and accept. But until giving a woman what she wants all of the time leads to no divorce rates or much lower divorce rates, if I can put it that way, endless respect, and fantastic long-term relationships, I'm going to have to tell you how it is. So with this idiot, the key ingredient is how attractive and valuable a man happens to be. And the more attractive and valuable that you are, the more likely this is to work for you. We've, we've talked before about Esther Perel. She's got a couple of really good books, Mating in Captivity. She's got podcast series and all this sort of stuff. And one of the things that she talks about is we often make overt declarations, very clear and overt declarations of monogamy, and then operate in a clandestine way and an adulterous sort of life. And men and women both do it. There's no one better than the other. I talked about in my first book, in the chapter on promiscuous primates, I think is the title of the chapter. We kind of get down the rabbit hole of like monogamy, non-monogamy, and all that sort of stuff, and how it has worked throughout history and how humans tend to sort of navigate that today and what the options are. So I'm not going to go over that in a lot of detail, but a lot of people declare exclusivity, but they don't give it. Now, when a guy reaches a position on or near the top shelf, giving her sexual exclusivity is often a very expensive proposition. These guys have done all this work. They've made money. They become influential. They become competent. They've got a good network. They're captivating, all that good stuff. They're handsome. And then one of the byproducts of leveling up is optionality, right? More women are going to be interested in. I mean, the surest way for a woman to vet a guy is the proximity of other women around that guy. Women want what other women want, right? So doing all the work to abandon the optionality that you can enjoy, it's kind of the equivalent of building like a multi-story car museum or garage, stocking it full of McLarens, Lambos, Ferraris, Porsches, resto mod cars like Singers and stuff like that, and then never visiting the facility or driving them ever. It's literally the same thing. Now, when you build a life of success and purpose, attractive women are going to naturally want you. But the real game is staying true to your mission, not focusing on chasing any of these perks. Follow me here. Should I read this thing to you? I'll read it to you because I've already skipped over most of the chapter. And this is the one that most guys get wrong the most. So let's just read this through. Most women, when they have been seeing a high-value man for a while, will eventually try to claim him for herself and lock him down. It's natural and to be expected if she really digs your vibe, right? If we can put it that way. Women aren't stupid, and they know when they're in the company of a man who naturally ticks all of the boxes. So they'll be keen to lock that guy down as best they can as early on as they feel they can lock the guy down. It's not uncommon for women in the earlier stages of dating, especially when she isn't in a position to make demands, because it's very early stage dating, right? She knows that kind of guy doesn't really put up with that kind of crap too. So there's a little bit of tongue biting, if I can put it that way. And she'll make a statement along the lines of, if you're seeing anyone else, please be safe. Okay. She knows that you may or may not be up to something because she doesn't have a lot of proximity. She doesn't have a lot of familiarity. She doesn't know what she's up to. Maybe she only sees you one time a week. She kind of sees some of your social media posts. So she's starting to guess. She sees the likes from some other women and she starts to guess, right? So she'll say something like that. She's saying that she gets it, that you're an attractive guy, and she knows that other women want you. She knows these women might spend time with you and that you might be sleeping with them. But the bottom line is she may not like it, but during that time, she can and does often look the other way, and she lives with it. Now, just as long as you don't jeopardize her health or reputation and you're being discreet, they put up with it. They put up with a lot of shit like that, especially early on. It's not that women don't care about you having sex with other women. It's that she just doesn't care quite as much as you think. That's why when men cheat, the first thing that she wants to know is, did you love her? That's all she wants to know. Did you love her? She doesn't want to lose you. She doesn't want to lose the attention and resources. She wants to know, Did you fall in love with her? Because when a man falls in love with a woman, women know that guys will do shit for them, right? We said this early on, right? When a guy falls in love with a woman, he wants to please her. He wants to give her what she wants. That's why they ask this question: did you love her? The act of intimacy for women often leads to love. And she knows that when a man falls in love with a woman, that woman gets the lion's share of his financial resources. If that happens 1,000 years ago, then that would have spelled doom for the mother and her kids. This is why they want to lock you down. In the early stages of dating, women are very likely to put up with these things. Okay, I can skip over that part. Let's talk about what women want. So women naturally want what other women want. And this is often especially true of her and her closest friends. If they signal to her that she's with a man that they also find very attractive, then that subcommunicates to her that she's found a winner. And that social validation from her closest friends will help reinforce the fact that she's with her hypergamous best option. But unless her genuine burning desire for you is starting to wane, at some point she will probably try to claim you as her own with the talk. We've had a conversation about the talk. The talk sounds something like, where do we stand? Where is this going? I want to claim you. I don't want to share you. Something like that, right? She will likely try to pull on your emotional heartstrings with language that suggests that she's hurt or sad, or that she has to share you, and that she is a one-man kind of woman and quote unquote strictly monogamous, wants commitment and sexual exclusivity from you. This talk is a pivotal point in most relationships, and men often make the mistake of yielding to the request. Stick with me here. You're going to understand this by the time I get to the end of it. Men do this because we want to make her happy. We talked about that. Now, there's several mistakes with giving her what she wants versus what she needs. Let's talk about monogamy for a minute. So when you search for definitions of monogamy, you get something resembling, quote unquote, a monogamous relationship is one where two people commit to being exclusive romantically and sexually involved with one another, meaning they are not romantically or sexually involved with anyone else. The defining element of this definition of monogamy is they're not romantically or sexually involved with anyone else. If you add right now to the end of that definition, then her statement about monogamy is accurate. And it also makes it clear that monogamy isn't in humans isn't lifelong. It's more or less serial in nature. Now, unless she's a virgin when you engage your intimate relationships, then she has by definition shared her body with other men. Therefore, she has been with other men. And I don't think it's possible for her to call herself strictly monogamous. We're going to get to the point here. Follow me. Strictly monogamous relationships do exist in the animal kingdom. Monogamy, by the way, is pretty rare in the animal kingdom. Very, very few animals follow that protocol. But there are some examples of strict monogamy in the animal kingdom, but it's rare. Gibbons, swans, albatross, they're the most commonly referred examples. So if one of the bonded pairs dies before the other, they almost never take on a new mate, right? Albatross goes out to sea to get fish, gets eaten by a shark, doesn't come back. The one sitting on the egg back home never takes on a new mate. Understand? So that's the definition of strictly monogamous, which is how women often put a label on what they're looking for. Women today are more monogamish and have serial sexual relationships with men. We talked about plate spinning. Women are natural plate spinners. I'll get to that super chat in a minute. So let's dive a little bit further down the rabbit hole. So there's a graph in this part of the book with the Teachman study. Let me see if I can pull it up and put it on the screen. I should have queued this up, but there you go. Teachman study graph. It's actually a pretty interesting study. It's worth reading if you want to get really like down to the weeds. Yeah, that's the one there. Let's put it up on the screen. There we go. Screen share. It's on a Facebook page for some reason, this one, but anyway, that's the graph that I'm talking about. Can I make this a little bit bigger? No, it doesn't really do it. Okay, well, we'll work with it. So following graph summarizes researcher Jay Teachman's body of work on women with the effect of premarital sex on marriage. My consults confirm more exes mean more cheating with just friends. Bottom line is the higher her body count is to prior to you with your relationship, the greater the risk that she'll get restless and want to wind up leaving you or getting divorced. Quite simply, on the bottom part of the graph here, lifetime sexual partners. On the left-hand side of the graph over here, this is not very clear on this piece over here. Oh, that's percentage. Okay, so we've got lifetime partners and then percentage on the left-hand side over here. And then this is the percentage of stable marriages. Lower the number, the more stable the marriages. You can just see the graph just goes downhill with the more D that she runs through. It's very, very simple. Best possible scenario, virgin bride is over 80%. And by the time you get to, what is this over here? 5, it goes down to 29%. Pretty abysmal numbers. All right, let's carry on. So if you find a pure woman, great. But with so many women today that have already been carrying baggage from not just one guy, but a string of them, it raises the fair question. Why would you, if you're a high value guy that's on a top shelf or a close approximation to it, who's put in the work, ditch your options for a woman that shared her body with dozens upon dozens of men? You know damn well that keeping these options open and around is what keeps her hooked on you. I just point to the facts. As stated earlier, don't necessarily need to indulge in said options. I want to make this very, very clear because this is where people get pissed off. Oh, he says cheating. Calm down there, Jeffrey. As stated earlier, you don't necessarily need to indulge in options, but you shouldn't fully close the door either. The loophole for you and only you, I make that very clear, for you and only you should exist if you want her to have GBD for you over the long haul. Ultimately, women are drawn to men who other women desire. So the top shelf man knows this, and they may choose to leverage the pre-selection and competition anxiety to intentionally fuel desire. So I don't buy that she can be strictly monogamous with you just because she says so. As I dedicated a chapter in my last book on humans and monogamy, I must restate that it must be chosen and not enforced on you. If you want to make the choice for it, good stuff. But it can't be enforced on you. It should be a conscious and well-educated choice a man makes for himself. Keep in mind that commitment and sexual exclusivity are not the same thing. Plenty of men do give women commitment, but not their full sexual exclusivity. You can give a woman 100% of your love. You can travel with her. You can pay for dinners. You can take her out. Thief bangs through the door. You can protect her at night. That's what commitment looks like, right? Holidays, vacations, birthdays, all that kind of stuff. But exclusivity can be separated from it. Sexual exclusivity can be separated from it. You can give a woman 99.9% sexual exclusivity. That's my recommendation. Most guys you'll find, they usually don't exercise it. Like if they're in a good relationship and things are going well and she's respectful and kind and useful and is enthusiastic about him in the bedroom, they usually don't do anything. But the loophole should remain open as proximity and familiarity should not become too known. Understand? Good. Okay, so to recently unplug guys and those still plugged in, this might sound totally alien, but I've seen plenty of high-value men with a wife and kids pour their love in a family, provide solidly, even hit all the key events, and they get a little bit of exercise on the side. It's usually when they're traveling. It's usually nothing that would be detrimental or problematic. And even if it had happened before, it may not happen again. But the door, in my opinion, should not be completely closed on it because women want what other women want. And if you deprive her of knowing that there's other women, then she ain't going to want you. You understand what I'm saying? I don't make the rules. I just observe and I point to the facts, and this is how it works. You shouldn't be running around being overt about it, irresponsible, unsafe, not taking anything away financially from her or from the obligations if you have family like children, stuff like that. Those are the key points. It's just, it's just the reality of it, right? As long as you don't embarrass her, as long as there's not a woman that comes knocking on the door, hey, pregnant with Rich's kid or some shit like that, that's going to be a real problem for you, right? I remember was talking to Ryan Benson. He was the forensic accountant, and he was telling me a story about this client of his who was a 40-something-year-old business owner. I think it was a dog breeding business or something like that. And his wife found out about his girlfriend because a phone call came in on the car, and he didn't recognize the number because she was at the hospital delivering his baby. And he answered the phone call in the car while driving with the wife beside him. It was over. It was completely done at that point. If you're going to manage this itty exclusivity, it's got to be discreet, responsible, and safe. Get it? Got it? Good. Now, if she's putting up with it in the dating phase, which she will, and they do, she'll put up with it throughout the entire phase of the relationship. But this all hinges on attraction. Are you the hot guy? And value. Are you competent? Are you resourceful? Are you networked? Are you right? We've talked about all this before. This itty, if you manage it, like I said, by all means, you can give her 100% sexual exclusivity if she's offering you effortless peace and she's a genuine compliment to your life. But the more of these itties that you give a woman, the more likely it will be that you will see her move away from you over time. It's my opinion. Give her 100% commitment, 99.9% sexual exclusivity. And most guys, they don't even act on it if they're happy in the primary relationship. So ladies, give him what he wants. You know, one of the things that you hear a lot of women complain about time and time again, and we saw this on Ladies Night when I was running that show. He cheated on me, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So if he did it and the guy before him did it, and you've run through a bunch of guys and they did it, right? Like, who are we kidding here? Right? You're just going to go on to the next guy and he's going to do the same fucking thing again. Somebody that may not love you or care for you as much as the guy that you're with right now. Right? And women want what other women want. So if she sees that other women want you, she'll be more attracted to you. There was a dialogue back and forth on one of the ladies' nights. And I remember this, this lady said that it was her husband and he was getting attention from like a circle of women because he was at an event, and he had some notoriety. He had created some renown for himself, if I can put it that way. And she didn't like it, but she was enthusiastic about him as a result of it. Okay. Yeah. Women want what other women want. The easiest way for women to vet a man is he in close proximity to attractive other women? You understand what I'm saying? Like, I don't make these rules. Like, this is just what human beings respond to. You don't want to be in close proximity. You don't want to get too familiar. And it's my opinion, you don't want to guarantee 100% sexual exclusivity. It just is what it is. So let's conclude this and then pop the hood under School of Unplugging, and let's do some call-ins and stuff. Hang on a second. I got this Echinacea throat spray for sore throat. This stuff works good. Little trick, keep it on your desk if you got to do a lot of talking. So conclusion, you want to maintain GBD from a woman. As I described in the first book, it's my very strong opinion that you should always manage these GBD killers over the long haul, these three. I've spelled it very clearly in this chapter. It's now to you to decide how you want to execute and manage your relationships with women who choose you over the long term. This is something you only do with women who have chosen you over the long term. If you date multiple women, you'll never fall in love. Or at the very least, the cream will inevitably rise to the top. Date only one woman, and not only do you develop the real risk of developing one-itis for her, but you will also ultimately lose faith and love, and you unintentionally begin pushing her away by being too close, becoming far too familiar, and worst of all, you make it clear to her that she is the only one for you. Whether she likes it or not, knowing subconsciously that other women would snap you up in an instant if she wasn't there, keeps her there. Social proof, even with her closest friends, is a subtle dread that keeps her on her toes. Do you understand? Are you unplugging and seeing the code in the matrix? Because my voice is getting cooked. Super chat. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. All right, let's do this. Grab the call-in link, drop it here again. If you guys want to do some Q&A, you guys want to challenge me on something, let's do it. Let me give you a little peek under the hood what I'm doing here with the school community. Share screen. Boom, here we go. So I've mentioned this before. I got to do a new ad reel. I've been super busy. It was a little bit of restructuring, a little bit of corporate restructuring, if I can put it that way. The school's chugging along really good. I'm at the helm. Things are going really well. We got 187 members in the community. I'm going to skip over members and leaderboards. You don't need to see that. Let's take a look at the calendar. So we've got fitness and hormone calls bi-weekly. I'm doing 3 calls a week, 2 on Wednesdays, 1 at 7 a.m. Eastern, 1 at noon Eastern, and then 1 on Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern as well. This is to support you guys in the community, to give you what you need. There's a big discussion board. You can see that over there. If you guys want to get to any of this, you can just scan the QR code on the top left of the screen. You've got your discussion board here where we get into chopping up ideas. You can see there's a lot of engagement, 45 comments here on this particular post talking about the 4 quadrants and breaking it down. A lot of this is all referenced in what I've built in the 7 spokes of a high value man. I've got the forum recordings for the last 2 years, by the way. So 2024, we had the first event. 2025, we had the next event. So the recordings for all of these, it's like 16 hours worth of video there. So you can get that. That's absolutely free. It's like $6,000 worth of value right there. The Zoom recordings for everything is, of course, sitting in here as well. So when we did the networking Zoom with 50 Shades, when we do the hormone and blood lab Zooms, I record them and they end up in there. We have another guy that does LinkedIn and resume writing and, you know, promoting your self for jobs and all that sort of stuff. He takes care of the LinkedIn side of thing, and we record that as well too. We actually did a deep dive down the rabbit hole of how to set up all that using my own personal profile as a example. And then you got the 7 spokes over here: unplugging, looks, money, status, game, frame, captivation. It's all there. I've already added the unplugging module. I'm going to skip over number 2 and go right to number 3 because I survey people on the board and I'm like, hey, look, you know, which one of these 7 spokes is most important to you? And the money one came up, so I'll cover that next. I've also got an LTR vetting guide. I think this is something like 3 hours worth of content here, because you guys are always asking like, hey, you know, I want to get a wife and I know that things are difficult and I want to have a family and children. This is the complete guide. This is how you get what you want. Okay. And then I've also got some upsells within the community. You can buy the divorce course or the School of Entrepreneurship, which is my complete program on starting up your own business, if that makes sense to you. So if you want to check that out, the QR code in the top left is where you go. I'll leave a link in the description after this video. Opt in for the annual option. You save, I think, something like 38%. You can do the monthly route if you want to poke your head in for a day, but my recommendation is go for the annual option and really, you know, get stuck in, if you know what I'm saying. It's good to read a book. It's good to watch a couple of videos, make a few notes. You kind of get through it, but it's better when we can hop on a large group Zoom in a community setting and chop up ideas together as men. It's men's space only. You can say whatever the hell you want. It's not public. it's not even recorded. I don't record the Zoom Q&As because a lot of people ask some very interesting questions. So that's where you get started if you want to take it to the next level, guys. Let me grab Will over here first, and let's get to the Q&A stuff. So again, let me grab this link because on the all chat, it just sort of goes everywhere. There you go. So you can call and ask a question from that link over there. Will, here we go. All right, Will, what do you got for me, buddy?
Hey, Rich, nice to talk to you.
Let me get those comments off your face. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
So I have an interesting dilemma that I'm faced with.
Oh, I like dilemmas. Let's go.
So I'm seeing this chick. She's got a really good background. She's got really good faith. I'm a Christian. She's a Christian.
Mhm.
We were getting kind of intimate the other night, and she said that she was a virgin and that she's saving herself until marriage.
Okay.
So
You believe her or you don't believe her?
I believe her. She's a Latina. She's got like I said, a good ethical background to her and stuff.
How old
So
is she?
she's 32.
Okay.
I know that's like she's made it this far. So she moved up here to the United States
From where?
within the last couple of years from Honduras.
Honduras. She have
Hmm.
intact family, both parents, mother and father?
Yeah, they're still together.
She go to church regularly?
Yes.
Every week?
Yep.
Okay. So tell me about the dilemma.
So I just don't know how I feel about the whole thing. Like I I feel like I should be able to feel like I could be intimate with her
Mhm.
in some sort of way before that. Um, because I've never had a situation like this happen.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm also trying to keep my faith there and stuff. So like I'm not a virgin myself. I've slept around the block, so um, but I'm also trying to be better.
Okay.
So
So take me
I
back to the dilemma. Let me try to understand this. So what's the ask here?
so I'm kind of against the whole marriage thing as a
Shocking.
Christian. As a Christian, I really don't see myself marrying, and trying to get over that hurdle has been hard for me. So
Okay.
um, I want the access to the intimacy without the marriage title along with it.
Why
I
are you
guess
not
that's
about marriage?
family law. My dad is divorced. I learned a lot from him.
Yeah.
Um, co-workers and stuff. I got a lot of older friends and stuff, so
Okay.
um, it's something that doesn't really work out. I don't see myself doing it.
How old are you?
30.
You got a good life together? You got good job, good money, you own your own business, or what do you do?
I do body and paint, make about 150 a year. I got a good 401k nest egg started.
Yeah.
Um, so financially, I'm on track. If there was a marriage situation, I would say, hey, let's get a prenup or something like that. I
Yeah.
think she would actually be on board because she's a dentist. So she kind of brings some, money to the table as well.
Hmm.
So I'd say as long as the prenup thing, you know, goes accordingly.
Well, I mean, you don't really, if you're making the same money or she's maybe potentially making more, then that's a pretty good position to be in if you're gonna do something stupid like marriage. It's
Yeah.
not the worst position to be in because if it doesn't work out, you're probably not going to lose anything,
Hmm.
right? Because she's at the same because all that family law does is it just destroys the one that's the stronger income earner, which is usually the guy because women are hypergamous, so they marry up, right? Talked about
Yeah.
this many times. So let's say you guys are on the same level. Maybe she's a little higher. Maybe her earning potential, can go up. That's not the worst thing ever. So the whole thing, like, I'm not against marriage. What I'm against is like the government doing what the fuck they want with your life and your money and your access to your kids. right? So
Yep.
what state do you live in?
Indiana.
That's not one of the A states for divorce when it comes to parenting access to children. Do you want to have kids?
I don't think so. I'm not opposed to it though. So I don't know.
Okay. She
It would be
wants
kind
kids.
of,
She's
I don't,
32.
yeah,
So
hers
she's
time,
older than you too.
yeah, her clock's ticking a little faster than mine, but she hasn't brought it up. But
Hmm.
she's also very intimate. Like she's very touchy feely and you
She's
know,
Latin, dude. Latin chicks. Welcome to Latin chicks.
yeah, I guess so.
Mhm.
Um, very passionate stuff. So it's something I'm not used to, but it's kind of comforting at the same time because Western women are kind of, I'm kind of over the whole thing.
How long you known her?
Um, I've known her we've been talking on and off for about 6 months or so.
On or off? Why on or off? Why not consistent?
Well, I've been seeing other girls at the same time, so
Okay.
um, just kind of, doing the
What?
plate spinning thing.
So how did she make why is she the target out of all the plates?
Well, like I said, her background's really good and appealing to me. Um, I know there's no such thing as the good girl, they're one decision away from being stupid.
Yep.
But I've been with a lot of women, and she seems like very traditional, like pretty much raised by her grandma on, Honduras type stuff, away from TikTok and social media and stuff. So
Okay. So the
she
cream's
seems,
risen to the top.
yeah, she seems like a really good, just, as far as her background and stuff, it's very appealing for me.
Would she be okay
So,
with you banging other chicks on the side?
you
Because she
know
wants to
what?
get married, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
She doesn't want to give it up.
yeah. I mean, she said, the only way that we would have sex is if there's a ring on her finger, is how she put it. So
That seems like a pretty strong bargaining position,
it's,
doesn't it?
yeah, but it also seems like a good, loyalty aspect from her.
Yeah,
So,
but I mean, like, back in the day, you would get an agreeable virgin, a young agreeable virgin. Now
mhm.
she's claiming she's a virgin. She's not young. I don't know if she's agreeable. I mean, it's like saying,
She's very agreeable. Anything I say, she'll do.
okay,
So she's
that's a good
very
start. I
submissive
mean,
and
like you saw
feminine.
the Teachman study, we had it up on the screen, man, like 80.47% or something like that chance of marital success if you marry a virgin.
Hmm.
If you marry a virgin, though, you don't know.
Yeah.
All women
So
have skeletons in their closet, Will. Some
I
have
know.
graveyards.
Hmm.
Is she hot?
She's pretty good looking. Yeah.
How is it that she was able to maintain or hold on to virginity for 32 years being hot?
Well, I mean, she's probably like a 7. She's not like a 10, you know. We're
I
not
mean,
talking like J-Lo or anything, but
a
um,
7 Latin's hot, right? It's
yeah,
hot enough
yeah,
anyway.
it's hot enough to get the job done. Yeah. Um, but the main thing is her personality. That's what kind of swept me away because it's, like I said, it's my first Latin chick, so I'm not used to that.
They change, you know that, right?
Over time,
Latin chicks? Oh yeah,
yeah.
they're hot blooded. They have a short fuse, and if you cross them, they'll fucking they'll be a pain in the ass, dude. You've only known her for 6 months. Here's here's what I would offer you.
Okay.
Date her for a while. Okay.
Hmm.
It's respectable that she's saying, look, I want to be married and I'm not going to have sex until I get married. Fine. If she's a virgin, you don't know that. But you don't know what she's made of. And you're not going to know what a woman's made of for a good year to 2 years. You gotta date her for a while. You gotta travel. You gotta, the luggage has got to get lost. How does she respond to the fucking flight attendant behind the desk or whatever when the luggage gets lost and shit doesn't go her way? You got to do all of that stuff to see what she's made of before you even contemplate the idea of marriage. You got to vet her against the 21 red flags. You got to look for
Mm.
the green flags. Have you read my new book?
No, what's it called?
Top Shelf Man, dude.
Top shelf man.
Boom. It's on Amazon.
Okay. All right.
5 stars. It's 5 stars, man. It's getting huge ratings and reviews. Read it. The management part of the LTR is what you're going to get out of the second book, but you got to see what she's made of, man. Like, you can't jump into anything like this if you're going to take on something that looks like marriage. And even then, I still probably wouldn't get married. I still probably wouldn't do it. It's just, like, women reserve the right to change their mind at any given time. But dude, if she likes you enough, if she says that you're a handsome guy, if she sees your value enough, she's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
If you're that guy for her. But if you're not that guy, she's not going to be patient. She just wants the ring. She wants the security. She wants the family. She wants the children. And it's like that's what I talk about in the book. Is a lot of women. There's a chapter in the book on Becky, the modern woman. And I'm not saying this Latin girl that you're dating is the avatar of the Becky, but like I said, all women have skeletons in their closet. All women have skeletons in their closet. There's not a fucking single woman over the age of 30 that hasn't done some disrespectful shit. I promise you, or lied about something.
Yeah.
And then, there's a lot of forgiveness in a lot of religions these days, right? You just repent, you get forgiven, and you can move on, sort of thing. You go do it again, you get forgiven, you can do it again, sort of thing. So, Jesus might forgive these hoes, but I don't think that you should.
Yeah. So I've kind of dated out of the whole Christian group for a little while, and it's been kind of like it's been easier to do the intimacy thing. But recently I've been trying to be better, with my faith and stuff. But the main thing for me still is the whole marriage thing. Every woman wants to be married, and it's just.
So what's this about? The marriage or getting some nookie?
I like my alone time. I'm very independent and stuff, so I think
just
the
take
whole
marriage
idea
off the table.
Yeah, living with a woman, I don't know if I could do it.
I love you. I want to be in a relationship with you. I want to grow old with you. I want to have dinner in front of the fireplace and drink wine and have sex all night. And then I want to walk down the street and go and sleep in my bed in my own house.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
So you're the man. Why don't you set the tone and, lead her in that direction? Like I said, if you're handsome enough and you're valuable enough to her, she'll go for it. If she doesn't think that you're that guy, then she'll move on. She'll be like, "Fuck you, Will. I can do better than this."
Yep.
That's the reality of it all.
I'll give it some time and see what she says, and
But still, it's only been 6 months. I mean, I would just keep spinning the plates. She would, see what she's about, see if she continues to come back, see if she puts up with you spinning plates and, doing what you want on the side. Just because she's chosen to be chaste doesn't mean you need to be.
Yeah.
I mean, if you like it and you want to indulge, go for it. I don't think people should tell you what to do. I think you should do what you want to do.
Yep, I agree.
And if you've decided to paint a certain life or a certain sort of lifestyle for yourself, like, I want to be with a woman, I like the companionship and I like the sex, but I don't want to live with a woman. I don't want to live in a way that looks like marriage, and I am open to children, or maybe I'm not, but that might change, sort of thing. It's like, you can say whatever the fuck you want at the end of the day. But if you're that guy, she will just be like, okay with it. She'll be like, okay, well, whatever you want. You just lead me. I trust you. Right? If you're that guy. But if you're not that guy, then, she's going to give you a hard time. She's going to challenge you. A real man would. If you were a real man, then you would do this, sort of thing. You'll start hearing that shaming tactic stuff. As soon as you hear stuff like that, it's like, that's contempt. And contempt is a clock that ticks down to the end of everything. So if she's like, oh, like a real man would, or if you're a real man, that's like, you're basically done at that point.
There's been no red flags like that since I've seen her. So there's no shit
6 months
testing.
It's only been 6 months.
But I mean,
so
as far as like the little nitpicky shit testing stuff, she doesn't do that.
Well, so give it some time. It's only been about 6 months. I mean, she sounds like a nice girl, and if you like her, then see where it goes and see how it unfolds. But do it on your terms.
Yep. Alrighty.
All right, bud.
Yeah. Thanks.
Grab my second book, Top Shelf Man. It's on Amazon, man. You're gonna love it because it deals with a lot of the stuff that we're talking about here, but it's well thought out. Like, I spent 5 years writing this book, but it's far better thought out and explained cover to cover for you. So you'll definitely get something out of it. Promise.
Okay.
Okay, bud.
Thank you.
See you, man. All right, let's get Andy here, and I'll just keep spamming. I'll keep spamming the chat. Somebody had a question over here or a statement. What is this over here? Exit gave me the marriage ultimatum, came back as soon as she found out I'm buying a house, and keeps trying to convince me of marriage. Crazy how it works. Yeah, she doesn't. Women don't usually marry the guy that they're head over heels in love with. You know, you'll find that men are really the true romantics. Men are the ones that will sort of bend over backwards to please her and romance her, sort of thing. And women are kind of in the business of like lifestyle, you know, if you can put it that way. Again, I'll go back to some conversation I had with Benson a few weeks ago, and one of the things that he noticed consulting on divorces as a forensic accountant is that women are very concerned with the lifestyle that they're going to have after the divorce. So it's not a money thing. It's a lifestyle thing. And the security that comes with it as well. So having a house, it's an asset. It's under your name. Just about all women with a brain in their head by the time they get to the age of like their teens at least know that if you're a guy and you own a house, then that's an asset. And if you live in a way that looks like marriage, then half that asset becomes yours, right? Some people have been bamboozled. You know, we've seen stories where, you know, soccer players put all their assets in their mom's name. They don't say shit, right? And then, you know, the divorce comes. She's like, wait, what? I don't get anything? But yeah, it's just the business of things. That's how it goes. Andy, let's see what you got, buddy. What's up, bud?
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah,
What's your take on polygyny? There's some talk going around, you know, Rob B. Kowalski or whatever, biblical polygyny and whatnot. And
yeah, I know Rob. I
pretty
did a
high
couple of
profile.
podcasts with him. Yeah,
Yeah.
had me
Oh,
on for
really?
years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah. What's your take on that? Do you think it helps alleviate some of these problems, or creates new ones, or, you know, how would you manage it long term, for example? If a
Yeah, so
guy
let's
had,
back up a little bit. So
yeah,
polygyny is one man, multiple women, right? And the angle that Rob uses is original scripture is polygynous, right? I can't remember the you know, the guy's name in the Bible, of course, you know, because I'm not religious, but I mean, you know, there's certain stories throughout, you know, the original scripture in which men had multiple wives, and even in early records that are outside of the Bible, the most successful, most powerful men, the most influential, the most handsome men always had multiple women. There's no historical record, and I talk about this in the book, The Top Shelf Man. There's no historical record of women running harems of men. I couldn't find it. Like I looked up, like I looked very, very hard. So that's what polygyny is. And it seems to be the natural state in society. Actually, Dr. Orion Taraban made the point that the end state of hypergamy is polygyny, because women want what other women want. And that forces women to share the top shelf men, right? So it's why you see these stats coming out of dating apps where like women find 80% of the guys on dating apps disgusting. They don't want anything to do with them. They're gross. But most men will be with most women, but most women won't be with most men, right? So that's kind of what hypergamy takes you to, like women wanting the best they can get. Well, the best they can get is going to be a guy that they're going to have to share. So the end state, he argues, of hypergamy is polygyny. So I don't have a problem with it. The problem that I have with it is that women today suck, right? They don't know how to fucking comply. They don't know how to be agreeable. They don't know how to be respectful. You know, they think their shit doesn't stink. And that's a real problem. So to have multiple women means that you got to have multiple women in your frame. Now, there's some fixes for that. I think that Islam has some fixes for it. I mean, you know, you can have up to 4 wives. And it's widely accepted that it's not a problem. There's no social, you know, condemnation around it. But there's a lot of guys that I know that aren't Muslim that subscribe to biblical polygyny from the original scripture. And then you get some headbutting with this stuff too. Like you get like the New Testament guys that are going, well, that's wrong, that's immoral, that's just disgraceful, blah, blah, blah. And you got the Old Testament like scripture guys that are like, you're full of shit. And it's like, you wish you could do this, but you can't. Right? So I don't know if that answered your question or really took it in the right place, but there's nothing wrong with it as long as the participants involved all subscribe to it.
Yeah, I worked with a guy who was from Somalia, and we actually talked about that. And I was interested in how it's managed in his culture. And he says that actually, rumor has it like a lot of dudes who are just like, I don't know, driving cabs or whatever in Minneapolis have their 4 wives. But he says that like there's there's some rules attached to it where like you cannot like for example, gifts. Like if you buy one wife something, you have to buy the same thing to all
Yeah.
of them. So there's like within the culture, there's actual rules of how polygyny is governed, and it's not all like bonuses for the man. You know what I mean? You cannot have a favorite wife, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know how that would work
Yeah.
in today's society. Would you have them, like, let's say if you wanted to have kids, you have them live separate or together, or how would that work in terms of what you were talking about today? Like, would you want to live, with 2 or 4 of them all in the same place, and who has
Yeah.
a house big enough, or do you
What
want
I
it
find,
separate?
what I find most guys do that are polygynous, that seems to be the winning model, is put them up in their own homes. They have their own homes. They look after your kid or kids in those homes. You take care of that. You take care of their car lease or whatever. There are some guys, I think that it only works if it's deeply ingrained religiously to live under the same roof, and they have like sister wives, sort of things. Like I've seen Muslim guys do it. I've seen, what are those guys, like the Mormons? You see it in some, religious sort of structures. But if it's kind of like a more modern version of if it's a more modern version of polygyny, it seems better to keep them in separate homes, because I just like, to me, it seems like a living hell to have like 4 fucking wives, like modern women. You know what I mean? Like most guys barely want to deal with one. Could you imagine putting up with 4 or 5 of them continuously with the bullshit that comes up?
It depends. It depends on like how properly selected they are. And I was kind of looking at it from the angle of like, let's say if you were to have 2 girlfriends and they are kind of vetted and they know about each other, is that a good filter for controlling psychos? For example, if anyone has been in a relationship with a really jealous and controlling, wife or whoever, having 2 of them could potentially, theoretically, I was just thinking of it from that angle, pre-select. You know what I mean? So it could almost be better.
Did you ever see the video on my email list with Casey Jones? I did the webinar with him.
I'm not quite sure.
So Casey Jones lives in Australia, and he's currently incarcerated. He's got 6 wives. Awesome dude. He's the kind of guy that I would sit down and have a beer with. Really, really cool guy. Enjoy talking to him. So I did a private Zoom webinar with him, and I recorded it and I put it on the email list. So if you guys aren't on my email list, it's another reason to be on it, to watch that video.
Is it an SOU also?
I can put it in there. I'll put it in the school for you guys under the right spoke, so you don't have to wait for it to come to you. So I'll do that for you guys in the School of Unplugging. But basically, like, long story short is, he's been living with these 6 wives. It's pretty much illegal. He's got all kinds of problems with the government as a result of that. And because of some Me Too bullshit, they've incarcerated him. Sterling Cooper sent me a link to, where he's at, because I was talking to him months back, because, they're both Aussies. And he's locked up. I was wondering I was wondering where he went, because his Twitter went fucking silent. He was so good, with his feed. And that's where he went. So it's like, it doesn't come without risks. You know what I mean? It's like, dealing with women is risky. Dealing with multiple 4, 6 of them fucking simultaneously, while you're trying to build a quote unquote harem to hold out to the world that you've got a bunch of chicks, which is a flex. I get it. Like the most successful, richest men in history had harems. They usually had a few wives, and then they had breeders, literally. And then they would create eunuchs that they would use to guard their breeders, because they didn't want the guards to bang their fucking breeders. And by the time they hit 30, they would put them out to pasture and bring in new breeders. There's all these stories about it, like remarkable stories about polygyny throughout history. It's very common. It's only today that it's frowned upon. But it's the women, man. My opinion, it's the Western women. Like, I wouldn't fucking want it. Like, I don't care how good you think you are. I've seen it over and over again. guys like Casey Jones, he's incarcerated because some bullshit Me Too. I don't know how much truth there is to it, but he can't see his 6 wives or his children now because of it.
That's terrible. Yeah, honestly, I just look at this Teachman study that you've shared many times, and I think it kind of says it all, and it completely correlates with all of my own experiences. Because I got red pilled pretty early dealing with women from teenage age, and so I
Yeah.
didn't really think much of them. However, what I was not red pilled on is like the realities of marriage and mental illness in women, and so that really tripped me up later on.
It's
So
high, man. There's a lot of
yeah.
women that are on antidepressants and all kinds of medications, and there's a lot of undiagnosed mental disorders. It's the women. My strategy as I have employed it in the past, and what I recommend to most guys, is just spin plates and let the cream rise to the top, and only choose women that choose you. Very simple. And if she doesn't choose you, or she stops choosing you over time, all right, you're not interested in me, fuck off, right? You sort of move on, because you're only going to have the best experience as a guy if you're dealing with a woman that constantly chooses you. She's really about you. And a woman that's really about you will fucking, take your commitment and 99.9% sexual exclusivity.
Yeah.
Right. It's like,
when I was
guys
younger,
want variety. Like, why do we have to keep having this fucking conversation? Like, why is this still contentious?
Yeah.
And if you keep him happy and you give him what he wants, he's probably not even going to step out anyway.
When I was younger, I wasn't maybe smart enough to tell the difference between like genuine desire and chicks that I was really into.
Yeah.
And I've kind of skipped a few who, in retrospect, as I've thought about my experiences from the red pill lens, probably would have been better candidates than the ones that I was really into, that I sort of worked, to attract and make into a girlfriend or a wife. I can think of at least a few examples. So
that's
man, it's not a perfect world.
Mindset around playing Captain Save-A-Ho, right? Is like, trying to because nobody really wants what wants them back, sort of thing. That's the reality of it, which is why I tell you guys, it's like, choose the women that choose you, because if you're spinning plates and you got 3 to choose from, it's like, okay, pick the best fit for you out of the plates that you're spinning, because they're already selected. They've already chosen you.
Not only just choose you, but choose you for all the right reasons. Because what I've had is somebody chose me, but not for the reasons that I thought. That later on I realized the reasons was I was just an ATM. You know what I mean? So
and
somebody
this is why you
chooses
read
you
my
for that
books
reason.
and understand this stuff.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Highly recommended.
Good.
Thanks, Rich.
All right, Andy. See you, bud. Yeah, I'll put that for you guys that are in the school community. I'll dig the unlisted link up and I'll stick it in there. There's actually also another one that's related to the Casey Jones polygyny story I did with Tristan Tate, and that's another hour. And he kind of talks about how he structured his life. He's got multiple girlfriends or wives. I don't know if he's married them or not, but he's got multiple women that he's got a bunch of children with, and he keeps them all separately. And he's got the story around that. So I'll put the Tristan Tate and the Casey Jones unlisted videos in the school community for you. Another perk. I just keep throwing value at you guys, man. Let me get this over here. Greetings. Forgiveness doesn't necessarily mean absence of consequences, lack of accountability. This is true. Let's do Wahlberg. I think my voice is done after this. What do you got for me, bud?
Hey, bro.
You're outside.
One thing that's
You're outside again.
What's that? Sorry.
Go ahead.
One thing that I've noticed that kind of contributes, and I'm wondering if people feel the same way, is that at night when the kids and my lady goes to bed, I feel that I need to stay up. Like, I just feel that I want
to. Your signal's breaking up, dude. You're going to have to go closer to the house because your Wi-Fi is getting dropped and it's trying to switch over to a cell tower.
Oh, there we go.
There you go. Okay, so back up about 5 seconds. Say that again. You stay up?
Yeah, I stay up when everyone else has gone to bed because it's just like an instinct. Like, I want to be up. It feels like I want to make sure everyone's peaceful and safe. And I stay up
over camp.
Yeah, exactly. I stay up for at least an hour or so.
Yeah.
And how it contributes to what you're talking about is it drives my lady a little bit nuts because she's like, come to bed with me. Why don't you come to bed with me? Right. And I'm like, I want to be up. I want to make sure everything's okay and everything's nice and peaceful and everything's all right.
Mm-hmm.
So she's constantly saying, come up to bed with me. So it's one of those familiarity things that I'm just not going to go with her. I'm going to make sure everything's safe, locked down and good before I go. So it drives her a little bit nuts, but at the same time, it ups the GBD.
It's really hard to maintain GBD when you guys live together and you got a family and, you know, the kid, and she wants like the comfort and she's got the anxiety around why aren't you in bed with me? Like, why don't you lay with me, Wahlberger? So she's just looking for that comfort. And I think that's maybe one way that you can manage some of those iddies, is just having a little bit of distance. You know what? I'm gonna do some work for a little bit. I'm gonna watch a show. You know, there's some things I got to do before I go to bed, sort of thing. And maybe that little bit of like strangeness or distance would certainly contribute to managing those iddies. So it's not a bad thing that you're doing it, man. It seems like it's I mean, don't do it to sort of create the distance. I would just, you know, it's like the distance is created as a byproduct of you putting yourself first and your agenda first, which happens to be watching over the camp for an hour before you go to bed.
Exactly. Just wondering if that's kind of a universal feeling of men when the rest of the family goes to bed. Is that what other people feel? Like, I want to stay up, make sure everyone's okay before I retire or I go up. I want to make sure everything's good. Like you say, overlooking the camp.
Yeah. Watching over. Yeah. That's a good point. All right, man. Thanks.
Cheers.
Yeah. That's what guys do, man. We never get appreciated for, you know, the sacrifices and the things that we do, but that's, you know, it comes with the territory, guys. It comes with the job. You do it for yourself. Mom's always a strong and brave one. You know, whenever you see like a couple together, it's always like people that point to her and they're like, you know how lucky he is. You know what I mean? Like, nobody ever goes to a woman, you know how lucky you are to have him. You never hear that. It's always like the other way around. Like, watch during the holidays. So that's a nice little story. You know, I'm happy for the guy. It's good. Anyway, so for me, my voice is cooked. I don't think I'm going to be able to do any more tonight. I'm going to have to figure out what's going on. Maybe we can come down with something. But yeah, we'll wrap it up on that note. Again, top left of the screen, you got the QR code to the school community. That's where you're going to get all the best stuff, guys. You want to really unplug and dive down the rabbit hole and level up on the 7 spokes of a high value man. Be able to hop onto Zoom Q&As, chop up topics around making money, entrepreneurship, dealing with long-term relationships, getting divorced, dealing with custody, all of that stuff, man. We have some really, really good conversations with the boys in that community. We're approaching 200 now. And again, if you're going to sign up for it, it's my opinion, it's my advice, sign up for the annual option. It's one lump sum payment, but you save 38%. That'll get you locked in for a year, and the rate stays the same. It never goes up. There's always going to be price increases as I add more material, more classroom content. It's basically going to turn into the largest library of some of the best shit behind the scenes that I can't talk about publicly. But you guys want to get in the rabbit hole and get in the weeds and really, you know, learn what works and what doesn't work? School. Head over to the top left with your phone, scan the QR code, get in. I'll leave a link below in the top pin comment and description after the show. See you guys later. Peace.